Hello, everyone. I'm going to begin this book talk with a quote. She was warned, she was given an explanation. Nevertheless, she persisted. Can anyone tell me what this quote is about? Or who this quote is about? If you guessed Elizabeth Warren, you are correct. Today, I'm going to share with you 5 books about 5 very different women who encompass the idea of girl power, and who, for some reason or another, made great contributions to this world, one of which had no idea she was even contributing. Today, I'm going to share the stories of a young woman tired of living in a segregated school, a poor tobacco farmer who contributed to science without giving consent, a loving daughter who made certain that she and her mother were to survive multiple concentration camps during the Holocaust, a Jewish woman who was the first to graduate law school from Columbia University and who became a Supreme Court justice, and finally, a rebellious rocker who grew up in conservative Texas. These are their stories. The first book that I am going to share with you is The Girl from the Tar Paper School. It's kind of a large cover here. This is about segregation in schools. So this was happening during the times of the Civil Rights Movement really gaining a lot of steam. Barbara Johns is this lady right here. She attended a school in Farmville, Virginia. It was Robert R. Martin High School, and it was built to accommodate a small amount of students. And when Barbara was going to school there, it grew in the population size, but obviously the school couldn't. And so the school board decided to do temporary school buildings for the students in order to make sure to accommodate all the students. And noticing that maybe these buildings weren't up to par, Barbara decided that something needed to be done. So she initially started talking to one of her teachers, and the teacher, inspired her to move forward with it. So eventually it led to her getting a bunch of support from her other students, teachers, and then she went to the school board, which was an all-white school board, and eventually she made changes. So this story, if you want a good story about girl power and about a young woman who to many was considered docile and quiet and who led this huge revolution to change her school, this book is for you. It's a great story. It's also fairly short and full of color, which is really exciting. The next story I'm going to share with you, and this is one of my favorites. This is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Henrietta Lacks isn't a very well-known person, but the HeLa cells, I don't know if maybe that rings a bell, in science, this is her. She's a HeLa cell. This story is about a hero that didn't mean to be a hero. She was a poor tobacco farmer, and she was having a lot of medical problems and was admitted to Johns Hopkins Medical School. And at this point, she was admitted on the segregated wing for all African Americans. And the doctors had seen the most nasty case of cervical cancer they'd ever seen with her. And so they decided that they were going to just take her cells out of her cervix. They didn't ask, they just took them. And she unfortunately didn't survive her cancer, but her cells did. They replicated thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. Many of her cells are still living today, and they've benefited science astronomically. But her children, she left 5 children behind when she passed, and they had no idea that she had made all these contributions to science without her knowing as well. So this story follows not only Henrietta Lacks and lets you know who she was, but it also follows her family's pursuit to try to get justice for their mother. And this book is so great. It's written in a narrative style that it doesn't feel like a nonfiction. It's not dry. It's a quick read. It's wonderful. It's very inspirational. So that is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. The next book that I have for you is I Have Lived 1,000 Years, and this is by Livia Bitten Jackson, and this is a memoir. Livia changed her name shortly after the Holocaust, but she grew up as Ellie Friedman. She was born in 1931 in Hungary to a Jewish family. When she was 13, her and her family were forced to move to the ghettos when the Germany occupied Hungary. And so then her family was then separated, and her mother ended up going to Auschwitz. This story is tragic. It's full of hope, despair. It is amazing what the human mind can be put through, and the body can be put through, and how it can overcome so many terrible, awful obstacles. While they were in the concentration camp, Ellie's mother becomes paralyzed, and at one point, Ellie is doing everything for the both of them, and she hid her mother so that her mother wouldn't lose her life. And this story, there's a lot of tragedy. If you can't handle a good tearjerker, this is probably not the book for you. But if you do, if you enjoy learning about the Holocaust, if you really want a good book about a true hero and a true inspiration, this is for you. Just make sure that you have a box of tissues ready when you're ready to read it. The next story that I have for you is The Notorious RBG. This is about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice. I smile so much when I hold this book because I just read it, and it is one of my favorites of all time. This Ruth Bader Ginsburg was born to a Jewish family. She was considered very docile as a child, very quiet, very bookish. And then she decided that she was gonna just move mountains. She was gonna go to law school. So she did, and she graduated from Columbia University, one of the first women to do so. And she met her husband along the way, and she likes to say that she owes a lot of her success to her husband, who supported her through all of this process, especially in times where women were still in the home and not in the working field. RBG has led so many revolutions for all kinds of different people, for women's rights, for family rights. She still continues to, at 84 years old, she's still a Supreme Court Justice and still fights every day to make the world a better place. And that was her goal going in. And she started off as a quiet, docile person, and she has really blossomed into something just absolutely remarkable. So if you want a really good I Can Move Mountains story, this is the one for you. This woman still goes to see her personal trainer every single day at 84 years old. She's a true inspiration. She's classy. She's amazing. And she really proves to young women that we can do anything. We can accomplish any obstacle, and nothing is ever going to stand in our way. So please, if you need a good book that will help you get through life, please read Notorious RBG, because it's full of laughter and full of just so many great things. And finally, the last story that I have for you is about our rocker, our rebellious rocker, Janis Joplin. So I'm going to play a little snippet, and so some of you might think, Janis Joplin, that sounds kind of familiar, but I don't really know who she is. So I'm gonna play one of her more well-known songs for you just really fast. It won't be the whole portion, but see if this rings a bell. So I'll start singing if I don't stop it right now. So that was Janis Joplin. So Janis Joplin grew up in a conservative town in Texas where girls had to conform. Females had to conform. They had to be docile. They had to be committed to their family life. Art really wasn't highly praised in her town, and this woman loved art. She was an artist, and she was a singer, and she just wanted to share her love with the world. And so she decided that Texas was too small for her, and so she actually moved to California, and she found all of these wonderful human beings that had the same passions as she did. And so she was able to share her love for music with the world this way. This book, it's so perfect. It encompasses her whole life in a short amount of time. Sadly, Janis Joplin passed away at the young age of 27. So she had so much more to give, but the author, Anne Angel, of this book, she did so much research, and there are so many personal interviews about Janis Joplin that once you read it, you're going to want to download all of her music and listen, and I can assure you that you will want to be a fan after reading this book. She was a true inspiration, and this is for all of you rebellious women who want to move mountains and do awesome, great things that maybe your community doesn't support. You go, girls. You got this. Just use this book as an inspiration. Thank you so much.